Hello, welcome back to another video. Welcome back to the Premier League countdown, where we preview the 20 teams that are in the Premier League 20 days before the season starts. So that's one team per day. And by the time we get to preview Wolves, the Premier League would have started either the next day or on the day. Make sure to like the video and subscribe if you're new. Thank you for 400 subscribers. We're trying to hit 500 before the end of the year. And last year, where I did this, Aston Villa fans were very nice. So if you're an Aston Villa fan, feel free to subscribe as well. Even though this is a West Ham channel, every fan is welcome. As you'll see this as well, you'll see this at 8 p.m. If you're watching it on Premiere, come and join me for my Q&A at 9 p.m. Not 8 a.m., 8 p.m. Come and join me for my Q&A at 9 p.m. as well. That is for the 400 subscriber special. But yeah, let's get straight into this. Obviously, Aston Villa did amazing last year under Unai Emery, finishing fourth. I don't think anybody expected them to finish fourth. If you go back to the video I made last season about Aston Villa, I think I was speaking very highly of them and the players in each positions, etc. Don't get me wrong, Aston Villa did have a couple struggles, but compared to the normal Aston Villa season, I think Villa fans will take that, especially under Unai Emery, who's almost done wonders. Well, he has done wonders at Aston Villa. Let's be completely honest. Especially with finishing in the Champions League, like who would have predicted that as well? And I thought they were going to walk the Conference League. They ended up not walking the Conference League. Olympiacos ended up beating them. Obviously, it's a bit weird between West Ham and Aston Villa with the whole John Duran situation. But believe it or not, I'm actually not going to talk about John Duran in this video because I've talked about him for too long now. I've talked about him for weeks, and I don't particularly want to talk about him again unless we sign him. Aston Villa fans, let me know what you think in the comments about John Duran and your opinion on him overall. But I think the best way to start with Aston Villa is to go through their transfer window. So I'm going to bring up Transfermarkt and bring through the 24-25 transfers. This is all their incoming so far. Obviously, Amadou Onana, I'm not a big fan of, if I'm being completely honest. And in terms of replacements for Douglas Luiz, etc., I don't think he's going to be the guy who necessarily fills that void. Yeah, he's a decent ball carrier, but I find him very overrated and not really having many standout moments within the Premier League. And yes, it might be under Sean Dyche type football, but I don't really see how he suits Aston Villa's type of football either, if I'm being completely honest. I find him quite overrated. But apart from him, I'm actually rating the signings that I know of. Now, I've never watched Illing Jr. and the Enzo guy from Juventus. So I'm assuming the Enzo guy, obviously, he says defensive midfielder here. He's probably more of the Douglas Luiz type replacement. I assume, obviously, that was used in the whole PSR deal with Douglas Luiz going to Juventus as well. And Douglas Luiz will be a big loss. He was very key to them last season. I've always been a big fan of Douglas Luiz, but he went levels ahead of what he is under Unai Emery as well. But listen, they'll be fine. They've not lost Lionel Messi or anything, but the guy was a leader. The guy was a big presence in midfield for Aston Villa, especially alongside Kamara, and just the way they play, he was very key. But maybe this Enzo guy will fill the void, and especially at 23, he's got a way to go. Lewis Dobbin is another PSR signing after having Tim Iraburnham go to Everton. I think I pronounced that right. Speaking of Everton, Ross Barkley also signed for them. That is a very good signing. Obviously, Ross Barkley was at Aston Villa before, had a couple moments in that loan spell, linking up with Jack Grealish under Dean Smith in the lockdown season. But Ross Barkley revived his career at Luton last season, playing in deeper positions, etc., but still finding a way to get a goal or two. And Barkley could play in the pivot, in Aston Villa's pivot, but also could play in the two number 10s that Aston Villa kind of play. They kind of play with two number 10s and a right winger and a striker, if I'm being really specific about how they play, etc. And it's a really effective way of how they play. And Ross Barkley will have the slight bit of versatility to fill in pretty much all midfield positions. And I reckon he will do well for them. I reckon he's going to be even though most people have hyped the Ross Barkley signing, I think he's still going to go under the radar in terms of the general consensus of what the best signings are going to be within the Premier League. And I hope he does get his career back on track. As long as it's not an expense of West Ham, then I'm completely fine with that. Obviously, Lewis Dobbin's a good young player as well. A good young player that was pretty much on a brink of breaking through Everton's first team. I don't think he's going to play at Aston Villa. Obviously, Illing Jr., Jaden Philogene, Morgan Rogers, Leon Bailey, etc. The winger option slash number 10 options. So John McGinn sometimes play there. They've got Emi Buendia coming back. I think John McGinn's probably going to be moved to the pivot a lot more due to the fact of how many winger options that they actually have with a fully fit team. I'm going to assume it's going to be Kamara and McGinn. If not, then it's going to be McGinn still playing slightly ahead. Obviously, will play in that inside 10 role as well. They like their midfielders. To be honest, it's actually a really good squad in terms of midfield and attack, in terms of depth as well. I'm quite liking the way they recruit specifically as well, as much as I don't rate the Onana signing, as I've said. And I actually did look at Aston Villa last season and think that they needed a fullback, and it's good that they signed Ian Matson. I generally thought that Dortmund were going to go and grab him, but him and Sancho linked up really well last season in the Champions League from what I watched, and the game I watched against Bayern Munich at the Allianz Arena. But Ian Matson is perfect fullback for Aston Villa. Obviously, sometimes the fullbacks like to bomb on in Unai Emery's system, especially down the left-hand side. Now, Luca Digne is been a great Premier League player, and the Moreno guy is decent. But in terms of Matson, he's actually quite decent defensively. Pochettino said the guy was too small to play for Chelsea. We saw how Chelsea were in the season in the end. They kind of needed someone like that. Sorry, I was just something just came up on my phone due to the West Ham preseason game. But Ian Matson's perfect, running up and down in terms of the system and stuff. He's going to be a great threat going forward as well. I forgot with the midfield slash winger options as well. They've also got Jacob Ramsey, who's actually been linked to a move towards Spurs and in trade with Lo Celso, but none of that has progressed since I last saw the first headline. But Ian Matson is going to be a great selling for them. He can put a decent ball into the box as well. He can also play further ahead. He can play pretty much anywhere apart from striker and centre back. So very talented player, very technically gifted. And another great coup by Aston Villa. Cameron Archer is an interesting one because obviously he's an academy prospect from Aston Villa that was brought back after a spell at Sheffield United. Now, I don't think they triggered a buyback clause because I'm assuming the buyback clause was a bit bigger than, or is in euro, 16 million euros. So I don't know what that actually translates to pounds. But Cameron Archer didn't really break the storm at Sheffield United. I don't know what the phrase is, but to be honest with you, he's actually still he's actually quite a good player. But and also at Sheffield United, it's very hard to thrive as a striker. We've seen that happen before with Ollie McBurney and Ryan Brewster and all these players, etc. I am being biased towards Ryan Brewster because he's from my area, but with Cameron Archer as well, it's almost a perfect environment. It's an environment that he knows already. He's not going to play many games, so the pressure won't be too much on him. But he's going to learn under Ollie Watkins as well how to become a better striker. And Unai Emery, we saw what Unai Emery's done with Ollie Watkins. Look what he could probably do with Cameron Archer. I'm actually looking forward to see how Cameron Archer does if he does get to play some games at Aston Villa. Speaking of academy players that Aston Villa brought back, Jaden Philogene is someone that I've been campaigning to bring to West Ham United when he was at Hull City. I like watching the Championship for those that don't know. So I was a big fan of Jaden Philogene and Jacob Greaves at Hull City, and I made a video talking about bringing them to West Ham. And listen, we were interested, and there was a lot of clownery going to do, obviously, to do with his agent with Barcelona and Everton. But he's a great player, good play down both wings. What I am thinking about is, the wingers and how many left-sided wingers they have Aston Villa, and compared to how many right-sided players they have. Obviously, usually in their system is like 4-4-2, and the two strikers, usually one of them's a right winger. It becomes a 4-2-3-1, sometimes out of possession, and that would be Leon Bailey. But let's say Leon Bailey doesn't play there. I want to know who's going to fill that position. Will it be a Morgan Rogers and they switch it up a bit? Or I'm just curious because after Moussa Diaby has left for Saudi Arabia, I'm curious to know who would fill that void up when Leon Bailey eventually does get injured, because as much as Leon Bailey is a good player, he will get injured. I think Aston Villa are due to have a natural drop-off, and I don't think they'll get Champions League football again. However, I do think that they're going to have another great season, and fuck knows how they're going to do in the Champions League, because I'm not really into this new format stuff, and I don't think they'll make it far in the Champions League. But in terms of the Premier League, they could definitely be in the top 4 race for sure. I think they will be. I think if I was to give an early prediction, they'll probably finish around 5th or 6th. But now it's very early, and also we got to think about last season. Who has progressed last season? it's like everyone. The league wasn't great last season in terms of final third quality, but a lot of the teams from last season are going to take a natural drop off anyway. I don't think Man City are any better. I don't think Arsenal are any better. I don't think Liverpool are definitely not better. Chelsea, God knows what's happened to Chelsea because as I'm recording this, they lost 4-1 to Celtic in pre-season, but this is also pre-season. Tottenham, I still think they need to rejuvenate attack. Us under a new manager, you never know what could happen. Newcastle still need players. Like we need players as well. Brighton have got a new manager, so Aston Villa can still easily finish fourth, easily. But whether they will, I don't know. I think they're going to still have a natural drop off due to the fact that maybe in key positions they're going to have to get used to certain players coming in and stuff. But they have a good squad. They're good at recruiting. I think there's no reason to be negative at Aston Villa either. Maybe apart from John Duran from an Aston Villa perspective as well. But other than that, like fair play to Aston Villa. Big up to everyone that's watched the video, and I hope you guys enjoyed that analysis of Aston Villa. We do a video every day, and we try to do a stream every day, but we're also bringing you this countdown series as well. So come and join us for all the other teams as well, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Make sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe if you're new. My social medias will be in the description if you want to follow me, and the email for the inquiries. And I'm going to see you guys later. Join me for the Q&A at 9 p.m.